Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Cleo and today I will be sharing with you... Can you guys guess what I'm going to share with you? Well, a new launch product coming from Arctic known as the MX6 Thermal Paste. First off, I'd like to congrats Arctic to have launched this product. And next, thank you very much to provide this tube for me to share with my viewers. For today, yes, you're right, I will be testing this thermal paste on my 7950X system, and I'll be going against with the brother and sisters of Arctic. I mean, not Arctic, but the thermal paste family, known as the MX4 and the MX5. Now, in this test itself, right, besides showing you the conductivity of the MX6 itself against the siblings of MX4 and 5, I will be sharing with you a very unique way. As you know that the 7950X, or should I say the 7000 series processor itself, right, it could be quite messy if you do the spread method. So I have a method. Please try this only when you're comfortable. Let's begin. The methodology of the test on this thermal paste is pretty straightforward. I will apply a spread method, be the MX4, MX5 and the new product MX6 spread method, and I will apply on this 280 AIO from Arctic, the liquid freezer tool. Then once I've mounted that, right, I will boot into Windows and to run a Cinebench R23 test for 30 minutes each, and I'll run another 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes is to season the paste, or should I say to somehow cure the paste which is not needed for this paste, but it's just that I just want to be sure. So once that's done, right, on the second 30 minutes, right, I will do the recording, and same goes to each and every of the paste. So it will be a 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes recording, and of course I will fast forward everything and to show you the actual process. Then I will talk about the results. This process is where I show you how I do the spread method. Now, as mentioned, this is my method. You can use your own method. Things that I'll be needing on this paste method: of course, the thermal paste itself, some rubbing alcohol, and some wipes so that I can wipe off, applying alcohol and to wipe off the dirt from the IHS and to the cold plate itself. I mean the AIO cold plate. I'll be needing scotch tape. You might be wondering, why do I need scotch tape? I'll show you later. And of course, you can make use of the spreaders if you want to. But for me, in this event, right, I won't be using this. It's very hard to control. Instead, I will be using mica sheet. For electronic students, you will know what this is. This is meant to isolate or insulate the electrical contact on your PCB or some heatsink. So it's pretty thin and it's easy to control. And the main character is here. This is the plastic wrap, easily accessed in the kitchen. Why am I using this? I will show you later again. And if you choose not to use this, it's okay. You can use gloves too, but I would prefer to use this more control. So let me just zoom in and to show you. Now, as you can see, the IHS over here on the new 7000 series, right, there are gaps over here. So when you do the spread method, right, you might just overlap it. So the way that I see it, right, if I can make use of the scotch tape and to cover this area over here, okay, for example this area, cover this area, cover the top area and the sides, so just leaving the square itself, I can apply the paste and to, you know, spread as I want. Even if it overlaps the scotch tape, it doesn't matter. So by the end of the time, right, when you peel off the scotch tape, right, it will be a nice square. So this is my method of spreading it. And another thing is that when you apply the cold plate, I mean the AIO on it, it will just spread off from this sides over here. And once the test is actually done, right, which I'm going to show you later, it's very easy to clean. In fact, you just take it out and just clean, and you won't have additional residue seeping through these slots over here. Alright, let me just show you how I actually do it. So basically what I'll do is, before I do anything, first thing, apply some alcohol to the wipe, then you clean the surface area of the IHS. Then of course you use the dry area to clean off. So once you have actually done that, right, as I'm taking Scotch tape over here, people might be saying that you're crazy, but well, this is how I do it. So as you can see, I can angle and to tape it this way. I'm done with the taping on the Scotch tape on the IHS itself, just giving you a better picture. See, it's just leaving a square at the center. So right now, next we'll be applying the thermal paste, which normally I would just do a fine grain, or should I say a grain, on top of the IHS. Not too much, but that will do. Then with this grain, right, next thing to do, as mentioned, you can use glove or you can use this. I'll be using the plastic wrap. I've tear out a piece with me right here. So what I'll do is, using the index finger, right, I'll wrap this plastic wrap over my index finger so that this is flat. Make sure it's flat, and I'll wrap it around. From there, making use of this finger here, right, index finger, I will just spread the thermal paste. It doesn't matter which direction you go, because you can feel that the paste is underneath your index finger, because the most sensitive part in fact is direct contact of your fingers. So with this said, right, I'm able to spread the thermal paste and to fill up all whatever necessary gap. Then I'll just smoothen it. So it doesn't matter which direction you go. So once you've done this, see, it's actually, the paste is actually all over. Okay, let me just off this. The paste is actually all over the Scotch tape itself, but it does not really matter because you have the Scotch tape to protect the gaps, as mentioned, those gaps over here, 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 and here. So once you're done, right, you can just take this out. See, your fingers is clean. Next thing, you can either use a spreader to spread more evenly. I'll be using this mica sheet, and before I do so, right, I will apply some alcohol and to clean the mica sheet. So once I've done that, right, I will slowly do the spread, as in like even pressure, and I will just pull through. So this will even up all the paste at all angles. I've done spreading with the mica sheet itself, so this is the final product. So what is left is to tear off this piece of Scotch tape. See, it's nicely done. Then once this is done, right, the next step to do is to prepare your block. Okay, let me just zoom this out. Make sure you clean the block itself, and again applying some alcohol. Then wipe this over here. Using the clean area, or should I say dry area, clean this up. And once you have done this, right, you can then mount the block to the IHS. So this is actually my method of doing it. And why am I doing this? Because as I mentioned, right, when this is pressured to the IHS itself, right, the rest, there will be very little residue spreading to the sides. And you were saying that you should be covering all the IHS, which is no, because the die part is only this section over here, and the top section. So you don't really need the whole IHS. So that's the reason why I do this. Alright, I'm just going to go to the dashboard and to show you the settings that I've done. And yes, I'll be using PBO2 to show you the results, because that's the only way that I can show you the temperature. Here is the UEFI of the system that I'm going to test on the MX4, MX5 and the MX6. I'll be using a Ryzen 9 7950X processor coming from AMD, and the motherboard is an ASRock Steel Legend X670E. And as for the RAMs, I'll be using a DDR5 32GB kit coming from G-Skill, known as the Neon Z5 if I'm not wrong. Settings I've done, in fact, is just to configure the Expo profile on the DRAMs itself, or should I say the DDR5. As you can see, I've set to Expo 6000. Now, as for the other tweaks, right, I've not done anything on all this voltage and such, inclusive of the external voltage setting, which I often like to use on X570 chipset, but this is different. I let everything on auto and not touched. The only thing that I've done is only on the PBO2 settings, which is the precision boost overdrive. Now, I've set manually the PPT, TDC and the EDC, and these are my settings. And on the actual run, right, you will see a slight difference, as in like the TDC will not stay at 138 and the EDC will not stay at 160. It will pull accordingly. For AM5 platform itself, right, for 7000 series, right, what it does is whatever power that you give it, and at the rated temperature, it will just pull from the EDC and the TDC. So these are the settings that I've done. And for the curve optimizer, I've set all negative 20, and it happened that this 7950X is a good bin chipset, so I can go, in fact I can go all the way to 25, but it's just that I would just set it at 20 for a stable run. Now, as for the fans itself, right, I do not have any fans because it's open bench test, and the only fans that I have is actually on the radiator, which you can see over here. This is running on full speed, and to show you, see, this is on full speed, and the pump itself is also running at full speed. So with this said, let's boot to Windows and I'll show you the legend on the Cinebench R23 and things that you need to take note. Here we go. Windows have booted up. I will be running off two applications. One is the Cinebench over here. Let me just run this. And the next will be Valley Benchmark. This is where I show you all the stats. And during the test itself, right, you will not see motion graphics. Instead, it will be stationary. And I'm going to set a position. Okay, oops, probably like this, and you will see all the stats over here so that it's not so distracting. Now, during the run itself, right, though I will set it to 30 minutes, and for each pace itself, first, once I apply it, and I will run 30 minutes, but this will not be shown to you. The reason why I run the 30 minutes is just to cure the thermal paste in between the IHS and the cold plate of my AIO. Then once this is done, I will conduct another 30 minutes, which is the actual run, and I'll record this and to show you. So each thermal paste I will do the same. Having to say this, right, there is additional info over here. Now, most of the time you'll be taking note on the CPU temperature, which is good. But the rest of this stats over here, right, I deliberately show you so that you can see that what is the CPU frequency that's running when it's at 100 load. Same goes to the core usage, as in like 100% when I run this Cinebench over here. Then this is the core voltage, which is providing the voltage to the CPU itself. And the CPU package power, in fact, is the power being drawn directly from your PSU to the motherboard itself. And for CPU 2, right, these are my radiator fans, which is running on the 1600 or 1680 plus or so RPM. So most of the time you'll see this consistent. This is the motherboard temperature. For VR loop 1, there are 2, which is located on your motherboard. These are the VRMs of your motherboard. And for SPD hub temperature, this is my DDR5 RAMs. There are 2, because I'm using a 32 gig kit. Then for drive temperature, this is the M.2 temperature. Now, the thing that you need to focus on besides the temperature, right, you will need to take note on the PPT, TDC, and the EDC. So this will tell you that I have not tempered on PbO2 when I do the testing for all the thermal paste. So having to say this, right, there's one additional info that I will be providing, which is the graph over here. Now, as I mentioned, on the lower left, this is the graph whereby throughout you will see that it will be running when I run the Cinebench itself, so there are no breaks at all. Alright, with this saying, right, let's begin and I'll show you the results. This is just to show you when this is taken off, right? I mean the AIO is taken out, how the spread look like. And it's very easy to clean, in fact. So as I were to lift this up, see? This is that much. And when I clean it, it's super easy. See, the thing is that if you were to see, right, it doesn't touch us here, here, or here. It doesn't matter. In fact, it's the whole center part. I mean, the whole center piece is touched. So having to say this, right, it's pretty easy to clean. So I just, based on the direction itself, right, I will just do this. It's like, instead of cleaning all over the place, right, sweep it in, sweep it in, sweep it in, sweep it in. So your paste will not go into those gaps. See? It's pretty straightforward and easy. See? And if I were to zoom in for you, right, take a look. You won't even spread, or should I say, overspill the thermal paste at the gaps. Earlier on, I've shown you the first remover, which is based on the MX4. It's very easy to remove and very easy to clean. Now, based on the fact that I didn't show you how I apply on the MX6, but the method is the same as I shown you how I apply the spread method. Now, the MX6 is slightly sticky and thicker, but as compared to the MX5, right, which is this, it's so much better in applying. In fact, I feel that the viscosity is there. So just to show you, when I remove it, see, this is all it has. And to clean it, let's see, I've not tested this out. Going to clean it. Again, as I mentioned, do not clean all over the place, just, you know, from the, I mean, going towards the processor itself, it will be much easier. Okay, this is much easier to clean as compared to the MX5. And I would say that it doesn't thicken that much as compared to the MX5. See, it's done, clean. And of course I will need to use alcohol to clean it. The results are out, and I deliberately took this out to explain. As you can see that later these figures will be moving. In fact, these are the live recordings that I've done, and I deliberately took the last 15 minutes instead of the first 15 minutes, as you can see over here. So why am I taking the last 15 minutes, you might be asking? Well, for the first 15 minutes, right, it does not really heat up the processor. It's only once it comes to the last 15 minutes where the processor stabilizes, and it will show you the results. Starting off with the MX4 and the MX5, look at the temperature reading. See, as I move on with the recordings itself, right, you can witness that MX4 has a consistency of the temperature 82 degrees Celsius on the CPU, and for MX5 it's hovering around 77 to 78. So I'll take the max temp as 78. Same goes to the MX4, which is 82. So it does prove that the MX5 does a better job in cooling the 7950X. And the rest are about the same, as you can witness. Probably I pull through and you look at the temperatures of all the rest, which are the same, and of course the PPT, the TTC, and the EDC. So as I pull, right, you see, it's consistent. Now, come to the MX6 itself, right? Okay, let me just pull this down. As you have witnessed, right, before I pull down, the temperature on all this area and all this area are about the same. Let me just pull again so you can take a look. See? And on this area here, right, it's also the same. Only difference is only the temperature itself and the clock speed. If you have not noticed, right, the clock speed on the MX4 pace is hovering around 5 gig and below 5 gig. Else for the MX5, right, is hovering above 5 gig and almost reaching 5.022 gig. Now I'm going to lower this down, since we know that the MX5 is doing a better job in cooling the 7950X. Having a look at this here right now, the MX6 and the MX5. When I hover, right, I believe that most of you is taking a look at the CPU temperature. Yeah, true enough, MX6 is slowing down, hovering about 76 degrees Celsius on the processor. Else on the MX5, right, is 78. You might be wondering, it's only 1 degree difference. So what makes the MX6 so special and different? Me too, I'm actually scratching my head as sorry about this. Okay, as I'm actually looking at the temperature here, I've been wondering, in the market right now, as they have mentioned that MX6 itself is more expensive than the MX5. So by 1 degree difference, why should I be paying more? I should be getting the MX5. And for your information, MX5 is discontinued, so you can't find in the market right now. So most likely you can only get the MX4. Now, the topic is not about whether to get the MX5 or not. The thing is that on MX6, it's only 1 degree different. So what makes it worthwhile? I've actually tested, something to confess, I've actually tested all the thermal tastes about 3 to 4 times. In fact, max is about 4 times on each thermal paste just to conclude this result. Because I've been scratching my head, 1 degree difference. So what makes it so special? The thing is, if you guys were to take a look at other areas like the motherboard, the VRMs on the motherboard, the DDR5 RAMs, and the drive temperature, inclusive of the clock speed, take a look between the MX5 and the MX6. I'm just going to pull. If you have not noticed, right, the gigahertz on the clock frequency on MX5 is much lower compared to the MX6. And the temperature between the motherboard itself. Okay, let me just pull back. Now, the motherboard itself, the VRMs, the DDR5s and the drive compared to the MX5, if I am to pull, all the temperature on the right hand side, which is the MX6, is running much lower temperature. So this tells me that though it's actually 1 degree Celsius, I believe is due to the nature of the 7950X, whereby it will push to that temperature and to draw whatever that your cooling solution is provided, and you will pump the gigahertz. Besides this, right, areas like the motherboard, the VRAMs on your motherboard and such, right, it does play an impact whereby it lowers down the temperature and enable the system or the CPU to go further as in like further clock frequency. And this is actually proven. I have actually done a video on the X570 Taichi where I did a mode to lower down all this temperature over here, and I did yield good results as in like the clock frequency on a 5950X. If you guys are interested to know about that mode, right, you can click on my top right hand corner. I'll leave the URL over there. Also, in addition, I did talk about the area because based on the fact that I not only look at temperature on the CPU itself, I look at it as an overall, whereby all this over here, right, plays an important part. Okay, let me just show you something that I should be showing you. Okay, looking at this motherboard here itself, right, you might be saying that, yeah, all this lower down the temperature, but what does it do? Now, do take note that your processor is sitting over here and it does generate heat. And all this heat, right, besides going to your AIO, I mean the heatsink of the AIO to the radiator, if it does not absorb a lot of heat off from there, it will dissipate to your motherboard. And when you dissipate to your motherboard, right, the impact area will be your VRM areas and your RAM area, inclusive of your OS M.2. So with this all heating up, right, I mean the system will not be really that happy to perform. So that's the reason why, as I mentioned, this does work. As in like, if you were to lower down the rest of the temperature here, the clock speed will be better as compared to the MX5. So there you see, it does work. This thermal paste, right, it does really work. Probably I will do another test on the X570 motherboard with a 5950X later, and that might even show better results. But for now, right, as on this processor, which is a 7950X, it does proven that this paste here does absorb all the heat and does absorb all the heat and to transfer to the AIO, the pump block, and straight to your radiator, leaving less dissipation of heat to the motherboard and yield better results on the frequency itself. And also there's another video which recently I've done on the Lianku 3 case with the 420 liquid freezer 2 from Arctic, and I did explain that all this area does impact your CPU performance. So there you have it. This is my opinion that this worked very well as is shown. You might be watching other reviewers might be telling you that the temperature is only a bit different, but overall you have to note, I'm looking at it at an overall standpoint rather than just a CPU temperature. So there you have it. My conclusion, this is worthwhile getting. So it's still up to your choice. I hope you have actually enjoyed what I've shared with you. For those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till the next video, take care, goodbye, see ya.